Coming up on Cannabis Coast to Coast News this week, the two presidential candidates spar on 17 topics in their first debate, but cannabis reform was not one of them. Yet both continue to play the weed reform card in their daily rallies with supporters. Plus, VP Harris blasts Trump for suddenly pandering to the cannabis voters by supporting safe banking and decriminalization. And the fight between Massachusetts State Treasurer Deborah Goldberg and Cannabis Control Commissioner Shannon O'Brien is back in the headlines after Goldberg fires O'Brien this past week and appoints Bruce Stebbins as the interim chair. And now they head back to court.
You can visit my website to read all about my common sense policy. I'm Sally Duval, and I believe it's high time for change in Texas.
A candidate for the Texas House of Representatives fires up a joint and takes a bong hit on camera to make a point for reform of cannabis laws in her state. Meanwhile, former NFL player Adam Pacman Jones confirms he smoked weed before many games in his 12 one-year Pro Bowl career.
The only thing that I can look forward to is clemency from President Biden. President Biden, look at my case. Demonstrate mercy.
Free Edwin Rubis, incarcerated for 27 years of a 40-year sentence for a non-violent cannabis crime. He wants President Joe Biden to commute his sentence, and the Beard Brothers of California are behind that effort. And now you can add your name to the list to get him out.
Keep quality medicine to those patients who desperately need it. And it's to ensure that we don't lose freedoms that we've already won over corporate greed and uneducated lawmakers.
That's our own Michigan reporter, Amie Carter, addressing a crowd at their steakhouse in support of Jaden's Law and other reforms. All that on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of the news from the cannabis industry. I'm Alaina Pinto. 67 million people watched the presidential debate on Tuesday night. It's likely that some of those people were pro-cannabis and waiting for one of the moderators to ask the question about federal reform of cannabis. You knew both candidates have shared their feelings about their opinions on that subject, but 17 subjects were talked about and not one word about cannabis. So think about what that means. If there is more daily use of cannabis now than alcohol, according to recent polls, 70% of adults believe the plant medicine should be legalized, but the media moderators didn't think it was appropriate to ask. This is part of why the reason and the stigma continues in this country and why pro-cannabis media will continue to push the effort towards acceptance and education. Then again, there are some politicians who aren't afraid to address the divide between federal and state laws. Last week, it was California Governor Gavin Newsom who moved towards banning cannabinoid-based hemp products in his state. This week, it's the governors of New Jersey and Missouri who are moving towards banning those products from gas stations, convenience stores, and smoke shops where they are readily available. Then there's the state of Texas, where the Farm Bill of 2018 opened the door for these legal products to grow into another billion-dollar industry. That state still considers cannabis illegal to possess and sell, but has allowed a huge industry of hemp and cannabinoid products to be readily available and for sale. One candidate for the House of Representatives in that state is Democrat Sally Duval from Austin, who spelled out that state's inconsistent government policy in a very dramatic way.
My name is Sally Duval, and I'm running for the Texas House of Representatives. You might already know what's in this, but do you know who has no idea and no way to test it? Law enforcement. They arrest people every day for marijuana possession, but they don't have the funding to test if it's illegal marijuana or a federally legal hemp product. Our laws are confusing and unclear. While marijuana remains illegal for most Texans, hemp products that can get you high, like Delta 8, Delta 9, and THCA, are being sold at more than 7,000 retailers statewide. But our lieutenant governor, he wants to both regulate and ban these products. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you can't do both of these things. Fortunately, we don't have to choose between safety and legalization. We can and should have both, but it's going to take leaders who know enough and care enough to do what's right. My opponent doesn't, which is a real shame. Not only will legalization and regulation help support our small farmers and medically complex Texans, but the tax revenue could be used to help fund education, public health, and mental health services. So here's the bottom line. Texans should have the freedom to consume these products if they want to. You can visit my website to read all about my common sense policy. I'm Sally Duval, and I believe it's high time for change in Texas.
Of course, when it comes to Texas, our Lisa Williams is right on top of stories in her state. Here's Lisa's take on that political ad and what it might mean for the state of Texas.
I'm Lisa Williams with the Toke Agency, bringing you the Texas Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. All right, folks, Texas politics just took a smoky turn. Sally Duval, who's running for Texas House District 73, released a campaign ad that got people talking and coughing. She lit up a joint on camera, advocating for full marijuana legalization in the Lone Star State. That's right. She's not just talking the talk. She's literally sparking up the conversation. Sally's argument is simple. Texas already has legalized hemp-derived Delta 8 and Delta 9 products, which are getting Texans high. But marijuana remains illegal. And according to Duval, these outdated laws are putting people behind bars and overloading our criminal justice system. In her ad, she makes it clear it's time to end the contradictions and allow Texans to legally buy marijuana. She says full legalization could help fund schools and healthcare and give our farmers a new crop to grow. And she's not alone. Sally points to the momentum building across the state. This November, cities like San Marcos and Dallas and Denton are set to vote on marijuana decriminalization measures. These votes could be the next step towards reshaping cannabis laws across the state, making Sally's push for full legalization more than just a campaign promise. It could be part of a statewide movement. In Sally's eyes, this is more than just people getting high. It's about giving Texans the access to medical marijuana, supporting local businesses, and bringing in much needed revenue. She's calling for regulations that benefit everyone, from patients seeking relief to farmers looking for new opportunities. Her opponent? Well, he's keeping it old school and ignoring the growing support for reform. But Sally's confident Texas voters are ready for a change, and she's not afraid to be the face of it. Whether this bold move helps her secure a seat in the House or not, one thing's for sure. Sally Duval is blazing her own trail, and Texas politics may never be the same. You go, girl. I'm Lisa Williams with the Toke Agency, bringing you the Texas Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Here in Massachusetts, last Monday, the chair of the Cannabis Control Commission, Shannon O'Brien, was finally fired by State Treasurer Deborah Goldberg, who appointed her to that post. Over the past 12 months, O'Brien has been under attack by people who worked at the commission but left because of a chaotic and toxic work environment. O'Brien was first suspended by Goldberg a year ago, and the two went to court to argue if that suspension was justified. Close to $800,000 in legal fees has been accrued, while O'Brien continued to collect here almost $200,000 in salary. Executive Director Sean Collins resigned in December, and now the state treasurer has appointed Bruce Stebbins to be the interim chair while the search for a replacement continues. Sure enough, O'Brien will appeal her firing, so the legal fees will continue to grow, as will the frustrations over the commission's operations. In fairness, the commission has made some changes to the controversial host community agreements and reportedly cut the wait time to issue licenses down from 4 months to 2 weeks. Although, depending on who you talk to, that timing might not be true. Case in point is a new dispensary in Millbury, Massachusetts. It's called Wonderland. And that opened this past weekend. Yes, the theme is the Alice in Wonderland, and you will find a giant mural of the Mad Hatter inside. Wonderland is another adult use family operation that held its grand opening over the weekend, and PCM founder Jimmy Young took in their launch and talked to the owner-operators about their experience in trying to get their doors open to commence operations.
Thanks, Alaina. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young on location here at the grand opening of Wonderland. It is one of the newer dispensaries in the greater Worcester, Massachusetts area, right outside the entrance to Blackstone Valley Shops, that mall in Blackstone Valley. And here is Olivia. This is a family-owned operation. Olivia is the daughter, the proud daughter, I would think.
The very proud daughter. Yes, thank you.
How cool is it to be working with your parents?
Pretty amazing. It's been a long journey, but we've had a great time doing it.
And everybody who goes through this process knows it is a long journey. How challenging was it to get through all the paperwork and all the permissions and then finally hear those words, commence operation?
It was a very long journey. It was treacherous, to say the least. You get so far and then the rules are changed in the game and you're set back again. So we were just perseverance and kept through. And it was about a 4-year process from us from start to finish.
4 years. By the way, there are reports out there that it only takes 2 weeks to get your license now, once your application in. Is that accurate, Olivia?
No, not at all. Unfortunately, I wish it were. Between getting initial approval by the state, through the town, then our build out, then you have to have your final walkthrough. It was a painstakingly long process to get through.
They don't make it easy for you to get into business, do they?
No. There's extensive background checks, and then as soon as you give them an answer to one form, you need to fill out another form, and nothing's grandfathered in, so you're filling out a lot of the same paperwork repetitively. So you feel like you're wasting time and you're dragging your heels. However, we were looking forward to the end site, which was Wonderland opening. We're very excited about today. We've had some great people come in. We have some wonderful vendors who support us through this process.
Terrific. Well, best of luck. And let me ask you a question. If anybody named Alice show up today?
Oh, well, we would love to see Alice come in, of course.
Don't you want to see Alice in Wonderland? I know I do. Thank you so much, Olivia, and best of luck in the future. I loved your parents. Your folks are great.
Thank you, they are.
We'll have more of Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto after this.
Ready to take your craft to the next level? Imagine faster extractions, purer products, and more profits. Sounds good, right? At Pure 5 Extraction, we've revolutionized cannabis extraction with our game-changing technology. No solvents, no heat, just the cleanest, most natural process on the market. Whether you're a boutique grower or a large-scale operation, Pure 5 has the tools to elevate your business worldwide. Visit pure5extraction.com today. Pure 5 Extraction, because your plants deserve the best.
Many of the professional sports leagues have made changes to their rules about cannabis consumption in the state where they play, especially in the 24 legal states. So when Adam Pacman Jones, a former 12-year NFL veteran and one-time Pro Bowler, admitted this week that he smoked weed before many of the games he played in, it came as no surprise. If you really want to hear from professional athletes who were users of cannabis during their career, you should check out Dave Briggs' Canversation podcast on our new PCM TV app. Briggs, a former sportscaster and news anchor at CNN, Fox, and now on the Yahoo Business News Report, interviews other NFL players like Calvin Johnson, Robbie Sims, Ricky Williams, Tiki Barber, and Amani Toomer, among others, about their own journey with the plant medicine in a league that was notorious about giving out opioids like candy. In the meantime, the state that Jones played in for half his career, Ohio, is continuing to rack up legal sales to adults. And now, after 1 month, that figure has reached $50 million, one of the highest first month of sales in history. Another Midwest state has turned out to be a major player in the weed industry. It's Michigan. That state now sells more different cannabis products than California, the nation's #1 state in the cannabis space. The problem in Michigan isn't the amount of sales in cash, it's the prices of flower that are coming way down. But before we go to her report, here's Amie speaking for her Michigan Weedsters from the steps of the Michigan State House this week, pushing for more cannabis reform in that state. Here's Amie Carter.
This is for the CannaFam. It's to keep us together. It's to keep quality medicine to those patients who desperately need it. And it's to ensure that we don't lose freedoms that we've already won over corporate greed and uneducated lawmakers. So let's work together. Let's educate the lawmakers. And let's save our cannabis here in Michigan. We have the best. We have one of, I would say, the most unique cannabis laws out of any state.
I'm Amie Carter from Michigan Weedsters with the Michigan Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. According to the newest survey by researchers as part of the ongoing University of Michigan National Poll on Healthy Aging, the poll, which surveys Americans 50 and older, were surveyed on the use of cannabis products containing THC. They found that more than 1 in 4 Michiganders used cannabis this past year, higher than the national average. Users say they're seeking relief from pain or trying to improve their mood. 2 of every 3 Michigan users said they do so to treat a medical condition. 84% of respondents said they use pot to relax, 70% to help them sleep, 65% to help them feel good, 66% to address pain, 54% to improve mental health, 43% as part of a social gathering, and 27% to celebrate. And we are celebrating here with our August numbers. They were just released, and Michigan's recreational and medical cannabis sales set a monthly record of $295.5 million, up nearly 3% from July sales. With Ohio now legal and harvest season approaching, those numbers could drastically change. We'll have to wait and see. The Michigan Weedsters hosted its annual harvest rally in Lansing, Michigan at our state's capital. Patients, caregivers, advocates, business owners, and freedom fighters gathered from high noon until 4:20. Although cannabis is legal in Michigan, we still have a lot of work to do. As the founder of Michigan Weedsters, I want to say thank you to everyone that came out. It was an absolutely beautiful day with so many amazing people. That's Michigan's Cannabis Report. I'm Amie Carter, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
That'll do it for the A block of this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast news, but we've got a lot more with our regular state-by-state correspondents, including more evidence on how youth and teen use is declining in legal states. So don't go away. Cannabis Coast to Coast news continues after this.
Yeah, it's a great question because cannabis is very exciting. It's almost like, mom and pop drugstores. You could start whatever you wanted. You could be pretty successful. And then there are the business people who see the revenue potential. And those are the ones that I think they are going to become the buyers going forward. And then smaller companies will be the sellers. And then there'll be another group of like, what the heck happened? And there'll probably be some craft survivors as well. But I think, the access to capital and business, this is becoming a mature business, just like craft beer or the car industry from, the 1910s to today. Yeah, I think Schedule 3 will have radical changes. I think we're going to see consolidation in the space independent of Schedule 3. Schedule 3 will influence the flavor of the consolidation, but it's going to happen no matter what.
Will that open up more capital?
It'll open up more capital, more access. One way or another, as the industry consolidates, they're going to have to get access to capital. The buyers will, and that's going to change the markets fundamentally.
Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alaina Pinto. It's time to check your history books about the Woodstock Music and Arts Festival in upstate New York that took place on Max Yasgur's farm in 1969 over a 3-day period. Well, did you know the town where that festival was held? If you said Woodstock, New York, you're wrong. It was supposed to be held in that town, but had to be moved to Yasgur's farm in Bethel, New York. Now, Woodstock, New York is in the news because that town is allowing a dispensary to open up in an old Burger King site. A Missouri-based operation called Travis will be opening at that location, but the only downside is they have to close the drive-thru. No. Successful dispensary operations are starting to move on and merge or acquire other existing dispensaries or getting new licenses in new states. Case in point is Planet 13 in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Tina Tasaka has more in her Nevada Cannabis report.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada and Tribal Nations report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Planet 13 Holdings has announced the acquisition of a 3,100 square foot dispensary in Las Vegas from Exhale Brands Nevada LLC. This deal includes both cannabis and non-cannabis inventory, along with a medical and recreational license. The total purchase price is $6.9 million, plus the value of the cannabis inventory, with $4 million in cash and the remaining $2.9 million via promissory note. The transaction will finalize once regulatory approvals are obtained. Co-CEO Bob Grossbeck highlighted that the new dispensary, located at 4310 West Flamingo Road, will enhance their market presence and operational efficiency in Nevada. Tribal nations are expanding their role in the cannabis industry in Minnesota. 2 Ojibwe nations, White Earth and Bois Fort, are opening dispensaries, with White Earth planning a location off-reservation in Moorhead. Zach Wilson, CEO of Wabigwan Meshkiki, noted that compact negotiations with the state are ongoing but not finalized. Bois Fort entered the market with its brand Ishkode, Ojibwe for fire, will open a dispensary near the Fortune Bay Resort Casino this month. Minnesota has been negotiating cannabis compacts with all 11 tribal nations, but no timeline for completion has been set. That's it for the Nevada highlights and tribal nations. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Speaking of acquisitions in the cannabis space, Vangst Staffing has quickly become one of the top recruiting firms in the industry, and now they too are expanding into Arizona, where Karen Black has more.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. First up, big moves in the local job market. Vangst, a major player in cannabis staffing, has just acquired Green Force's assets in Arizona as well as Michigan. The merger is set to create more opportunities for job seekers and businesses right here in the Grand Canyon State, potentially boosting our local cannabis economy. Now let's talk about a health concern that's hitting close to home. Dr. Libby Stite, a retired addiction psychiatrist, has raised some red flags about cannabis use among older adults in Arizona. She's noticed an uptick in cases of cannabis-induced psychosis, particularly in folks over 50. Dr. Stite warns that today's pot is much stronger than what many older Arizonans might remember from their youths, and it can pack quite a punch. She's calling for more research and better education on the potential risks, which could impact how we approach cannabis use and regulation in Arizona. On a lighter note, if you're in Phoenix, you might want to head over to Jars Cannabis. They're celebrating the grand opening of their new Arcadia location with a ribbon cutting ceremony. And they're also dishing out some sweet freebies. If you're up in the high country, maybe check out Earl Camp, a Riverside festival, September 20th through 22nd at Jackpot Ranch in beautiful Camp Verde. Lastly, Stacy Boyd, the owner of Peaceful Potions and THC, is working with Michael Dillon of Drops to bring her award-winning products to Arizona. She's holding a fundraiser September 28th, somewhere back east. Look her up on LinkedIn if you're interested in learning more or donating to the cause. Stacy Voigt, Voight, Peaceful Potions, and THC. That's all for the Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
One of the biggest barriers on legalization and acceptance of cannabis is the cry, "What about the kids?" Well, depending on what age you think defines being a kid, there have been a number of federal research studies taking a look at the 10-year pattern of teen use in legal states, and the exact opposite has occurred. This past week, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services released their findings of a national survey of young people ages 12 to 17. The question asked to them was, have you tried cannabis over the past year? Well, that figure has now fallen 18% from 2014 to 2023. The next question was, have you consumed cannabis over the past year? And once again, that number has declined, this time by 15%. So even though half of the adults in the United States have access to legal cannabis, their children are accepting that the product is designed for adults, and their curiosity has waned. Since there is now more scientific evidence of its effects on the adolescent brain, we're curious on what is going on in the state of Virginia, though, where they have a robust medical program. So here's Joe Parsons.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. As I reported in a previous report, Health Service Area 1, or HSA 1, has sat vacant for years since legal issues surrounding the MSO operator Pharmacan had their conditional license to operate suspended in Virginia due to not meeting license requirements set forth by the Virginia Board of Pharmacy, the agency that was tasked with setting up the medical system in the Commonwealth. Well, after millions of dollars invested by the then up-and-coming MSO fell through, a lengthy legal battle ensued that left HSA 1 empty and thousands of patients in the district without the plant medicine. Ultimately, Pharmacan merged with MedMen and with hopes to rebuild. But as we all know, MedMen filed for bankruptcy with over $411 million in unpaid debt. So that never happened. At the beginning of the year, the VCCA announced that it was time to get those patients in need another company to fill the void. By the end of the application process, over 40 applicants, some big MSOs and some small local companies, all threw in their $18,000 application fees and waited and hoped to see if it was worth the investment. The VCCA has confirmed the winner of that $720,000 question, the Florida MSO Air Wellness. They were chosen as the winner of the conditional license for HSA 1. Air Wellness will be known as Air Virginia in the Commonwealth and will have 6 locations allowed to operate. Now, as of this recording, the 6 locations have not been made known. However, Air has confirmed that it has its eyes on setting up shop in Clearbrook, Virginia, just north of Winchester. Now, I've reached out to Air Wellness to congratulate them, and I'll bring you all the updates all the way from now to the very first ribbon cutting ceremony. However, it is important to remember that the license is only a conditional license, and Air Virginia will only have 1 year to meet the conditions such as a background check, leases, and a base of operations that's in strong working order to make their temporary license a full pharmaceutical processor permit. Due to the size of HSA 1 and the fact that the University of Virginia and James Madison University are in this district, it's a challenge to get operations running. Pharmacan had similar issues in the conservative Central Virginia. Now, we can all hope that this new MSO player that has a presence in 8 states will be a breath of fresh air and have a successful run, bring something great to HSA 1. Well, that's going to do it for this week. From the Virginia Cannabis Connection and reporting from Cannabis Coast to Coast News, I'm Joe Parsons. Until next time, stay lifted.
One of the latest states to pave the way to open adult use sales is Delaware. Right now, it's legal to possess up to 1 ounce of weed without any hassles from law enforcement. The adult use market is still scheduled to open in the spring of next year, but now they have an issue with hemp in that part of the industry. MJ Biz Daily used secret shoppers to buy 30 intoxicating hemp products that are being sold legally in that state in gas stations and stores. They then brought those products to state-approved testing labs, and the results are alarming. 19 of those 30 products were being sold without labels. 83% were found to have more than the 0.3% THC that is the supposedly definition of hemp, and 63% had synthetic cannabinoids in them. 23% had contaminants that are deemed to be harmful, including psilocybin. Ohio is continuing to rack up legal sales to adults, and now after 1 month, that figure has reached $50 million, one of the highest first month of sales in history. Here's Chistina Brisson with our Ohio Cannabis Report, now sponsored by Yellow Labs.
In Loveland, Ohio, Emily and Mark seek to deepen their bond through intimacy. They turn to Yellow Labs Rose Oil Massage Cream with delivery technology, promising enhanced pleasure and connection. The cream ignites increased sensitivity and arousal as they apply it, kindling a shared passion. Excited by its effects, they find joy in shared closeness and moments of unity.
I'm Chistina Brisson, here with your weekly update for your Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Last week we talked about how $212,000 were imposed on multiple adult use recreational facilities. So let's take a minute to look and see why and what some of these stringent rules are. So in Indiana and Michigan, you're allowed to advertise on billboards, but not in Ohio. Additionally, in Ohio, we're not allowed to advertise on X, on Facebook, or Instagram. We're also not allowed to reference slang, very similar to how it was when we used to go into smoke shops. You cannot talk about getting high, rolling a joint, etc. None of these things are allowed in these current Ohio advertising rules. So Ohio, let me say first that I'm glad that you chose when to legalize marijuana. The first time it was on the ballot when I was here was very stringent. We were limited to very few distributors. The income and the growth and the sales is going to go to very few people. And then we waited for a better proposal and we said, yes, now this is it. Now what we're looking at, has the scrutiny gotten too much since it's become legalized in Ohio? Now, per the Dayton Daily News, we have the ACE Task Force, who has an annual marijuana eradication effort. We have a grower who had 8 plants, who was descended upon with 30 police officers, as well as helicopters, telling him it looked like 25 plants. 8 plants look like 25 plants? I have to give compliments to the grower. But the grower said, we need more rules. We need more information on what the rules are for being homegrown. What can we do from here? This is the kind of information I want to know and what I want to know if you want to know. Well, let's talk sales. 54 million in the first month that we've had legalized sales in the state of Ohio. 1.9 billion since medical was legalized in 2019. Ohio is there to support cannabis sales 100%. This is Chistina Brisson with your Ohio Cannabis Report from Over the Top Renovations, brought to you live from actual campus of Ohio University.
The Ohio Cannabis Report is supported by Yellow Labs and Better Ways to THC.com. Search for Yellow Labs near me and find one of 40 dispensaries in Ohio carrying these amazing mists and creams.
Another state getting into the battle against Delta 8 products derived from hemp is New Jersey. While that market continues to expand, their governor, Phil Murphy, is banning the sale of cannabinoid-derived products from hemp. The other part of this bill, however, puts these products under the regulatory authority of the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, which is the same group that sets up its cannabis regulations. Wow, a single regulatory group that will set the rules for hemp and cannabis sativa, including testing and regulations. Maybe the federal government will see this and get a better idea on how best to control the fledgling cannabis market in this country. After all, it is the same plant. Well, here's more from New Jersey with Jill Goldsberry in her Garden State Cannabis Report.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jill here with B Talk News New Jersey, and I am coming to you with a story out of Hudson County, particularly out of Jersey City. We're nail deep into this story, and it really involves Mayor Bullock of Jersey City and his refusal to reinstate 5 officers who were terminated for off-duty legal cannabis use. And this has been an ongoing story that we've been following since 2023. What's happening now, the latest developments? Well, the city is now filing a the city is now applying fines to Mayor Phillips' office for each day that the officers are not reinstated, and this is each day for each officer. So it's $100 per officer per day. That's a lot of money. In addition to this, their reinstatement was scheduled to be for August 25th. That was the deadline that was imposed. Mayor Phillip has refused to accommodate this deadline. So now the city of Jersey City is liable to pay these fees. And I don't know about you, but if you live in Hudson County, this is definitely a concern, because guess who's going to be paying those fees? It's not going to be Mayor Phillip. It's going to be you, the tax holders, you, the residents of the area, are going to be paying these fees because Mayor Phillip has refused to reinstate officers. He's literally discarding the law and taking the law into his own hands in the city. This is a concern because if you are a cannabis user and you are in law enforcement and you do live in New Jersey, you may be at risk of losing your job. Other mayors may follow suit. So this is definitely something that we are concerned about. That is the latest on that story. I will keep you posted. I'm Jill Goldsberry with the new We Talk News, and soon to be called Coast to Coast. So watch out for that. Also, don't forget to download our app so you can get more news on the go. I'm Jill Goldsberry. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
That's the B Block, but we have more coming up in our last section, including the Beard Brothers from California, who are spearheading a campaign to get a convicted nonviolent cannabis inmate out of jail after serving 27 of a 40-year sentence for sales of cannabis that was never in his possession. Edwin Rubis has the support of the Last Prisoner Project Cause.org, the 40 Tons brand, Freedom Grow, Jailed for Weed, and other advocacy groups. But the Beard Brothers are the most visible, and next week at the Hall of Flower show in California, the stage will be named the Free Edwin Rubis stage. We'll tell you how you can get involved after this break.
Thing that I have gone through is losing my family, losing my children, losing my ex-wife. And, I think that's what hurt the most. And specifically, and it's still hurting now because one of my sons, about to be 25 years old, is currently homeless. And he doesn't want anyone to help him because of his mental issues. And he's been jailed twice. And my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. I cannot go out there and go look for him and try to help him. And the irony is that I know all these things that I've learned here behind prison walls, how to counsel people, how to mentor people, and I can't even mentor my son, which is how.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedsters filtration system. What? The Weedsters.com, Weedsters, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, Add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedsters.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.
Ready to take your craft to the next level? Imagine faster extractions, purer products, and more profits. Sounds good, right? At Pure 5 Extraction, we've revolutionized cannabis extraction with our game-changing technology. No solvents, no heat, just the cleanest, most natural process on the market. Whether you're a boutique grower or a large-scale operation, Pure 5 has the tools to elevate your business worldwide. Visit pure5extraction.com today. Pure 5 Extraction, because your plants deserve the best.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the C Block, or the final section of Cannabis Coast to Coast. I'm Alaina Pinto. Another reminder, if you want to follow Cannabis Coast to Coast, just download our free app, PCM TV, and the weekly report will always be posted there at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Mondays. We also have a QR code that takes you right to the App Store or Google Play, where you can get your free download. Next up, what's going on in Washington, D.C., where most of the action is on the campaign trail, but the DEA has set its date for that administrative hearing, and it's on December 2nd. So yes, a month after the presidential election. With more on that, our nation's Capitol correspondent takes a look at the backlash by former President Trump on his wavering support for federal reform and his method of using that issue to fit his own narrative. Here's Andrew Behringer.
I'm Andrew Behringer with the Washington, D.C. report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. We start with our main story at the intersection of politics and cannabis reform as the November elections approach. Bipartisan skepticism surrounds former President Donald Trump's recent declared support for cannabis reform. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are questioning the sincerity of his claims, with Representative AOC and Representative Andy Harris sharing doubts regarding Trump's sudden pivot on the issue. During interviews on Capitol Hill, AOC dismissed Trump's comments as merely campaign talk, while Harris echoed her sentiments, suggesting that the former president's position may be politically motivated rather than genuine. Now, some see a glimmer of opportunity for bipartisan unity, especially as polling indicates strong voter support for cannabis legalization, especially in key swing states. Now, in a related story, newly discovered recordings of former President Richard Nixon reveal a striking contradiction to his administration's hardline stance on drugs. In a March 1973 meeting, Nixon acknowledged that cannabis is not particularly dangerous. His comments come at a time when the federal government is reassessing cannabis status as a Schedule I drug. Next public hearing is scheduled for December 2nd to discuss this potential rescheduling, just after the upcoming presidential election. The political stakes are high as the future of cannabis industry remains intertwined with political maneuvering. It's obvious that if we don't learn from the past, we may be doomed to repeat it. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to follow this story. That's the Washington, D.C. report. I'm Andrew Behringer, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
When former President Donald Trump mentioned this week that he was supporting decriminalization and safer banking, the stock market exploded. Here's our man in stocks, Doug Miller, who is high on Wall Street.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's Cannabis Stock Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast. Cannabis multi-state operator Green Thumb Industries closed a $150 million 5-year syndicated credit facility led by Valley National Bank. According to Green Thumb Industries, the oversubscribed non-brokered offering is the first bank-only financing of its kind in the regulated U.S. marijuana industry. They plan to use the proceeds of the credit facility and existing cash to retire $225 million in senior secured debt due April 30th, 2025. The notes have a maturity date of September 11th, 2029. Green Thumb Industries reported annual revenue of $1.05 billion and a gross profit of $528.05 million in February. Let's see how the stock chart is looking. It trades under the stock ticker GTBIF, and it's trading around $10.33. It appears to be curling up, but watch for dips and trade smart. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast, I'm Doug Miller.
We've been covering the battle over adult use in Florida, and question 3 on the ballot there that will open the door for adult use in Florida. And over $70 million has been spent in the media campaign, and MSO Trulieve is leading the charge since they have 155 dispensaries in that medical-only state with over 800,000 registered patients. Now let's check in with what is going on in Florida with Jeff Aker, our master gardener.
Hi, I'm Jeff Aker, your master gardener from Florida with your Florida report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I've got 3 things. Well, let's talk cannabis. Got 3 things I want to go over today from Florida that's happened this week. The first thing is Donald Trump has said he was going to sign Amendment 3. He is a Florida resident, so he's going to, when he votes, he's going to sign yes on Amendment 3, which we all should. But this in tune might be his ease and stance might transition over to the federal when and if he gets elected. So that's very, very good news for Florida that Donald Trump is, because Florida is pretty heavy Donald Trump. Secondly, I want to talk about Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has come out with a new not like. His new not like is a monopoly that it might cause by implementation of 3. Well, the monopoly is kind of true in a way, because there is 20 different companies that distribute medical cannabis in Florida. With them, there's about 600 dispensaries that distribute that cannabis. But the way he could get around that would be maybe to give us home grow, which I think that would be beneficial. The cannabis companies don't want that because that would cut into their sales, but he could implement that. Social equity licensing, which a lot of other states have done. So he's got some avenues he could go down. Also, he's constantly complains about the smell. Well, in life, there's things you don't like the smell of. I don't like the smell of gas when I'm pumping gas for my car. I don't like the smell of a diaper when I'm changing a diaper. There's things I don't like the smell of too, but I've learned to live with them. The last thing I want to talk about is Florida leads the country in fentanyl deaths. So you don't know black market what it might be cross-contaminated with. There was 6,000 fentanyl deaths in Florida last year. We never know what your black market has been, maybe cross where it came from, what else might be in the room, because if fentanyl's in the room with cannabis, it infects it. So let's make it safe. Let's try to do an end to black market and get it safe. This is Jeff Aker reporting from Florida with your Coast to Coast Cannabis News.
It's Kevin Shakir, aka the Shake Man, and I am reporting for Arkansas, the natural state, right here on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. We've got some excitement, folks, going on. That's right. We had 77,000 signatures that were validated from last month. That's right. July to August was 77,000 votes. We actually turned in over 90,000 votes, and only 77 actually were validated by the Attorney General. So what we did is the Attorney General gave us 30 more days, in August. That's right. We had the whole month of August. We gathered up 39,000 plus signatures, and those are validated. And so we are going to be able to put the amendment for adult use and also for patient grow on the ballot for November 5th. It's a done deal. Now we need everybody right here in the state of Arkansas to get out and do the due diligence, vote, work hard. That's right. It's not over till it's over. The fat lady has not sang yet. She's still warming up, but we have November 5th. We want everybody to be a part of this. So make sure that you tell all your friends, all your neighbors, anybody that this concerns, that you need to get out and vote. That's right. That's what we're going to do. The amendment adds a lot to what we need right here in Arkansas. For one, it extends the Arkansas licensing from 1 year to 3 years. You can have up to 7 plants that are full mature and 7 little ones. So those are the things that are coming for you right here. But we need you to do the most important thing. Get out and vote November 5th. This is Kevin Shakir, a.k.a. the Shake Man from the natural state, Arkansas, right here on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. And now back to the news with Alaina Pinto.
And finally tonight, the case of Edwin Rubis in California.
That I have gone through is losing my family, losing my children, losing my ex-wife. And, I think that's what hurt the most. And specifically, and it's still hurting now because one of my sons, about to be 25 years old, is currently homeless. And he doesn't want anyone to help him because of his mental issues. And he's been jailed twice. And my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. I cannot go out there and go look for him and try to help him. And the irony is that I know all these things that I've learned here behind prison walls, how to counsel people, how to mentor people. And I can't even mentor my son, which is out there in the streets, homeless and without directions, without anyone basically giving him a hand to say, hey, this is what you can do to get out of it. So the only thing available now, or the only thing that I can look forward to, is clemency from President Biden. President Biden, look at my case. Demonstrate mercy and empathy. My case deserves a second chance. My life deserves a second chance. My family deserves a second chance. Please be merciful unto me. I am really ashamed of my past crimes. I really regret my criminal behavior. I feel very remorseful about the things and the choices that I made to hurt other people, to hurt myself. Give me an opportunity to be able to change my life from the way it was to the way it can be as a contributing member of society.
He's a convicted, nonviolent cannabis prisoner serving a 40-year sentence in the Los Angeles, California area. Edwin has served 27 of those years in prison, and during that time, he's earned multiple college degrees, including a master's in Christian counseling. One of the biggest media personalities and growers in California is Bill and Jeff Levers. Their brand is the Beard Brothers, and now they're using their media influence to tell Edwin's story and appeal to President Joe Biden to commute his sentence. At next week's Hall of Flowers show and grow competition, the Beard Brothers named the presentation stage after him in order to gain even more attention to this movement. If released, Edwin wants to be a guidance counselor, life coach, and he'll probably write a book. You can help by submitting your own 10-second video and submit it with the simple message, Free Edwin Rubis. Go to beardbrosfarms.com. The link is below for easy copy and paste, or you can contact freedomgrowforever88@gmail.com. So, on behalf of Pro Cannabis Media and our Cannabis Coast to Coast News team, I'm Alaina Pinto. Please free Edwin Rubis. That will do it for this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. And remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. The show will be released on our PCMTV app and website procannabismedia.com on Monday, 16th at 9 a.m. We'll see you next time.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.